Hi, I'm Robert Hensley, Emmy-nominated makeup artist and award-winning content creator. You're watching Face Value. This is the show where I get a chance to interview my friends, performers, makeup artists, to talk about beauty, their idea of beauty, our industry, and how our industry may have affected their relationship with beauty. My guest today is Cici Andersen, a professional makeup artist and hairstylist based here in Los Angeles. Cici is a licensed and OSHA certified cosmetologist who loves collecting vintage antique beauty items. Now, Cici and I have worked together in the past. Her work spans film, commercial, music videos, web series, editorial, and she makes these fantastic YouTube videos that kind of cover the history of makeup. So please join me in welcoming my friend, Cici Andersen. Cici, so good to see you.
It's been literally a million years.
It has been a million years.
Yeah.
But I've been keeping up with all of your stuff on Instagram. You're pretty active.
I am pretty active. I got more active during COVID, I have to say. I was trying to, make sure I stayed on top of staying connected to people. And I thought for a second, I was like, I better find a hobby, And this was something, like posting, as you know, I do a lot of history stuff. Mm-hmm. Posting a lot of my interests kind of helped me create a little bit of a community so I didn't feel so alone during the whole thing.
It's really smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Well, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you today, because we've been having conversations with people about beauty. And so I wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit about just kind of where beauty has been. You know what I mean? As a historian, as someone who's into makeup history. Not that I'm expecting you to give us a full dissertation or anything.
Well, thank you. And you're quite an expert yourself. You were one of the first people to ever give me a job in this industry.
Oh God.
I'm serious. You really helped me, and I want to say thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. God, was that Texas Toast?
Texas Toast.
Yeah,
forever ago. But that was such a fun project.
That was a fun project. Mm-hmm. It was. All right, so getting into it.
Mm-hmm.
First question. What does beauty mean to you?
That is a good question. I can tell you when I was little, I thought beauty was my mom. I remember watching her put on makeup and just seeing how confident she felt. And it made her kind of transform. And I thought that was just a beautiful ritual. And I think that that's what made me first fall in love with makeup. But now I think it's harder to define what beauty is now, because it's really so subjective. It's in the eye of the beholder, and it's changing all the time. What is beautiful? And you can find beauty sometimes in ugly. You know what I mean? Something is decaying, but it's lived in, it's maybe unloved, but you can relate, and that makes it beautiful in a way. Right. And that can be a really interesting relationship to beauty. So I guess the short answer is I don't think there's a right answer, but I think you can find beauty in just about anything.
That is a great answer. That's a great answer. I think for me, I think that beauty is something that is more than skin deep. I think the beauty comes from, like you said, relatability. Mm-hmm. It's something that lies beneath the surface.
Yeah, totally.
And yet, as makeup artists,
we still strive for that perfect face.
We're taught that that we're makeup is meant to not just to enhance what's there, but that in some cases. Have you ever read the Milady Handbook?
Absolutely.
Okay,
that was my Bible.
Right. So the Milady book. They really kind of stress the fact that we do makeup in this effort to create a symmetrical oval face.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that, and that people who didn't already have this symmetrical oval face, were basically being spackled to death until we got them there.
Right. Right.
Do you think, in your opinion, in the history of makeup and everything changes so often, mm-hmm. and it's so cyclical and it's so attached to fashion and the economy even, that it's kind of do you feel that we've in some ways done a disservice to just kind of people in general by forcing a standardized beauty on people?
A short answer, yes, I do. I think that we miss the boat on. I mean, I think specifically about what you're talking about is like this Roman principle of beauty, like these proportions, right? And I think that that also bled into like with the standardization of beauty during filmmaking, like the Westmores and Max Factor, and they had this like ratios that they considered to be beautiful based on symmetry and based on I don't know exactly, but proportions were really what they stressed, as well as harmony and color.
Right.
And I think people took that to a weird place because you kept seeing the same kind of face over and over again, and so they kind of missed the principle, which is you can apply it to any face, any skin color, any ethnicity, but the ratios and proportions are always kind of the same oval face, the same kind of harmony in color scheme. But I think we missed out on a whole group of people because it was just what they kept putting out there. So it's just kind of to the exclusion of everybody else.
Right.
I feel like there was a second part to your question that I think I missed. But I feel
I'm not feeling like I'm missing part of the answer though, so we're good.
Okay, let's go. Yeah, I feel like I had so many thoughts in my head at the same time when you were asking the question. In standardizations of beauty, that's such a complicated question because it's been different at different times. So at some times in history, pale skin was considered beautiful. At different times in history, tan skin is considered beautiful. Right now, we're in this conversation about what is not changeable about somebody, and is that beautiful? It's like, if you're dark skinned, is that less beautiful than being light skinned? And can you put on dark skin as a self tanner or whatever? Is it a costume at that point? Can you take it on and off, and is that appropriate? And I think that that's a really interesting conversation too, especially when you get into the nitty gritty of it, which is tan skin was considered working class, because you'd be outside, you'd be maybe in the fields, or you would be just a worker that didn't have the luxury of being at home and pampered all day, know. And so what was considered kind of like ugly and low class suddenly becomes high class, and then you go deeper, and maybe to the subjugation of the Gauls, right? That's like a thousands and thousands of years ago. But the Romans would scalp these blonde women and wear their hair, but those blonde women were their slaves.
Right.
And so it's this like cycle that just keeps perpetuating, which is, for some reason, you get to this beauty standard, you fight so hard for this beauty standard, and then the lower classes find their own groove and their own thing. And then the rich people want to just take it. And like
cultural appropriation at its finest.
Thousands of years old. It's not new. Yeah. It's not new, and this conversation feels new, but it's not new.
No, it's not new. I feel like in some ways, for in the beauty industry, and especially like with we'll say Hollywood. As an example, and how it happens elsewhere, but I feel like we're kind of, and I say we as an inclusive industry, we find ways of championing or celebrating uniqueness, while at the same time stamping it out.
Right. I think it kind of depends which brand you're looking at. I do. I like, Milk Beauty makeup. Milk Makeup. They do a really great job, I thought, to try to, I guess minimizing the amount of makeup isn't the right word, but letting real skin show, letting different kinds of beauty show. I thought that they did a really great marketing campaign. And then you have other brands that are all about the like full beat and imposing a shape onto a face, very sculptural, very drag too, very Kim Kardashian.
Yeah. I think I loathe to use the K word, but but I mean, when we talk about kind of contemporary beauty culture, so much of it revolves around that family and what they perpetuated on the E! Network. And for better or for worse, like there's just the thing that killed me during that whole period was, especially when they were at the height of everything, was when you would get hired and they would be like, we need Kardashian beauty, and everybody wanted to be like, they wanted extra powder and they had to be baked, and people expected to sit in a makeup chair for a half hour with powder under their eyes and all this other crap, and it was just kind of like, who has time for this? Like it's it is attainable, but not for anyone that has a life.
Right, it is attainable, and it was purposeful at one point. I recently got so I collect a lot of vintage and a lot of vintage items and pamphlets and books, and one of the recent things that I got was a little makeup pamphlet from Max Factor from circa like 1945, 1950, and he doesn't call it contouring, he calls it modeling. It's a modeling a face, and this idea that you would bring out the contours in the face was just because it was a function of the film just looking a little flat, so you needed to bring out the contours in order for you to see that they have cheekbones, or like to be able to see that they have a contour around their eye. And then, people like Wei Bandy, Kevin Aquan, they took it to like this whole new level. And it is an art, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to create a face, but nobody does that in their everyday life, and the expectation is now that everyone's going to look like that all the time, and it looks crazy in person.
Oh yeah, and that's one of the other conversations we've been having too, is that people fail to realize that that family and other celebrities, when you're on a photo set or a film set or working on a music video, TV, there's an entire team of people, right? The glam squad, the vanities department. Like, you are being chased around, 12 hours a day by people who are like picking at threads and making sure your lashes stay straight and making sure that like not a drop of shine appears anywhere. I mean, no one has that.
Nobody in their everyday life
has that. And then, but then there's this question too about those celebrities when they're out of that environment. How do you maintain a healthy relationship with beauty when you get home and you don't necessarily want to be that persona when you go to the grocery store? Like, people come to...
I don't know if they go to the grocery store. Are they just like us, Robert? I don't know if they are.
Okay.
I'm sure they go to the grocery store.
I'll put it this way. The professionals that I've been talking to, yes, they go to the they go to the grocery store. I was just talking with Valerie Pettiford, and we were laughing because she's one of those, like, if she's not on, there's no makeup, hair is like hidden under a knit cap, she's in her leggings wearing Crocs, and she's pushing her cart through Gelson's at 7 a.m.
Yeah, I think that there might be the ability to hide. I don't know that some celebrities really get the opportunity to hide very much, and I think that that's why they have a full beat on all the time, because they, it's kind of an old school mentality around celebrity too, is that you are always this person and you can't let the facade down, because then the mystique kind of goes away. And there's that Marilyn Monroe story where she's walking down the street and she goes, she turns to her friend, she says, do you want to see me be her, and like turn it on, and she just lights up, and all of a sudden people start recognizing her because she just like put on a different persona. Like, it comes from like within, but also without, I think it also comes from like the full beat and the dress and the whole thing. But I think celebrities know how to hide when they want to.
I think you have to. Yeah. Especially now, because society is just so obsessed. But I love that story about Marilyn Monroe, because the other thing, if you read about Marilyn, is that she was so smart, super savvy. And, Marilyn that you saw on film and that was the public persona was a puppet that she wore like a glove. So, the whole idea of that Marilyn didn't become Marilyn until she created the walk. Right. And that she had this little notebook where she literally took notes about human anatomy and the way things hang. And so Marilyn's walk was based on, if someone had picked you up by the top of your head and only allowed your toes to touch the ground, how would you move? That was Marilyn's walk. And she had it in a note.
I don't think even I knew that.
And she had it in this notebook. She really created from top to toes this illusion.
Totally. I mean, it's funny. I recently read Guru it's the RuPaul. I like his. I don't know if you can call it biography. I guess it's like his like life advice book, but I thought it was so interesting because there's so much information there about creating a look and proportions, which again, proportions so important. But the way that your eye kind of does spatial relations, where he's like, well, the hair has to be a certain like way if my hips are going to be a certain width, and then you kind of bring the hairline up a little bit and you bring the cheekbones up a little bit and you highlight this and you contour that, and it's all about creating this like total look, which I think Rue does impeccably. I mean, honestly, and I know that it takes a village, but it takes the right village to really understand that. And I think that the professionals that were working with Marilyn clearly also knew Whitey Snyder, I think, was a master at his craft. Really learned how to like open up her eye the way that she really admired Greta Garbo's look. So like I think that was something that she wanted, was kind of this beautiful eye that he could make for her. And I remember noticing that little white line in the corner of her eye when I was little, and I go, oh, that's like a makeup trick. Like I can do that. And then the first time I did it, I realized what a difference it makes. And I was like, oh, I got to do that all the time. Like that's an amazing trick. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that I think when we look at celebrities of the past and how because they were very much involved with the development of their kind of personas.
Totally.
Because it's, what you think about, Lucille Ball going from this, blonde haired, blue eyed to like all of a sudden having this hennaed red hair that just,
she didn't stand out.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing, that was what made Lucy Lucy. And I think, now people kind of like are seen as being either beautiful or not. And then if you're beautiful, people are willing to kind of play with that. But then you're kind of locked in. You become this kind of personality. Like it's not just a character anymore. It's really, it's kind of like you don't get hired unless you bring that look to set.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I was literally scrolling through Instagram yesterday, and my top 2 stories was Bella Hadid and her mental health, and then another actress who I don't know her name, but it was about how she was told from her agent. I think this was on BBC News. That her agent told her that in order to win awards as an actor, she has to get ugly. And I just thought that was like such a jarring statement, because I was like, okay, so if you're a beautiful person, you're expected to be beautiful all the time until you want to be taken seriously, and then you can only be taken seriously if you're ugly. And I thought that was such a harsh, a harsh thing to say to anybody.
I hate to say it, but it's kind of what they refer to as pulling a Meryl.
Yeah, I've heard that said too, and that's so unfortunate that we can't relate being beautiful to having a problem.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it is. It's, if you're beautiful, you have no problems. You can't possibly be upset.
Right. You can't. Yeah, there can't be anything wrong in your world if you're that beautiful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that it's really, how do I want to say it? The fact that we call it pulling a Meryl is a little painful, because I think about, because I was talking with an actress about the idea of, when the breakdown comes out for a character and you're auditioning, that sometimes you're like, yes, I got the audition. And then you read it and it's like, oh, like, so she's fat and ugly. And you're kind of like, is that really what I present? Is that what they, you know what I mean? Is that what they saw when they saw my headshot? And then you think about someone like Meryl Streep, who I think is gorgeous. I think she's a beautiful woman. I think she always has been. She has a very unique look, but not necessarily classical beauty.
Right.
And I think that the idea that she would be willing, because of her gift, because of her talent, and wanting to go into a character and being willing to forego, the beauty treatment portray a housewife in Iowa, or
Right.
to be whatever, God, to be whoever she wanted to be, because the woman has played everything. But I don't, like, why do we see that as being, I think that's beauty. Like, why is that seen as being ugly? Like, why is pulling a Meryl?
Right. Well, I mean, I don't think that the problem is with the actor. I mean, I think they probably are just doing their job and feel quite relief that they don't have to go through all that hair and makeup. And I think that they do see beauty in the kind of mundane, if you will, and that's why they do their job, and that's why they want to be an actor. I think society isn't ready for it. You know, society isn't ready to see the beautiful person have a breakdown because, you know, if you're beautiful, things are easier for you, and I can't relate to that. You know, like that's, that's like, I think that's what it is. Like, that's the underlying conversation. But equally, I had a really interesting conversation during COVID with an actor friend of mine had posted about I think it was like the Monica Lewinsky movie that was made, and there was a call for, you know, the actor that played, I think her name is Linda Tripp, right, or something like that. She's like the bigger, and then she had this makeover, and she got slim and did a bunch of work to herself, I think, and looked totally different by the end of that story. But
Yeah.
I actually didn't watch the movie, but I know the story. And she said, why couldn't they just get a bigger actress to play this woman? It's a role for a bigger actress. Why wasn't, like, they got a skinny actress to play her and just fattened her up for like a couple scenes, and then, you know, and I was like, I don't know. I don't make those calls, but I can assume from our perspective as makeup artists, it's much easier to make a suit for somebody and then take it off for a scene, and there's like a practical quality to it. But I think that that does something to the psyche of an actor, and I think that that does something to the psyche of anybody watching. You know, it's like, oh, you know, yeah, like, you can only be an actor if you're this size, because then you have more opportunity for roles.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the perspective of a producer or a director, or wanting to be authentic, or because it's considered a contemporary story, so these are people or characters that a lot of people had already, they knew the story, they knew who they were, they knew what happened, and so they would be expecting to see that same kind of transition, you know, when Linda Tripp first kind of was in the background, was kind of the plump, heavy blonde, and then, you know, before her book tour, all of a sudden she was
snatched.
She was Linda Tripp.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So I guess to create that, you know what I mean? And so could someone have just stayed, you know, could they have found someone who was just kind of in the middle between kind of, you know what I mean, and just done kind of a really great makeup job where she went from being, you know, a little less glam to being a little more poised?
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But
And this is all without having actually seen the film myself.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
that was my initial reaction was, well, maybe there's a practical reason. But I could see what she was saying, and I was like, yeah, I didn't think of it that way. That wasn't my first thought, but maybe that's because I'm not the one going out for those roles. And
but it also, I mean, because it's kind of the same conversation. I know that it kind of started, or I saw it kind of starting, and then it just kind of fizzled out. But same thing with, you know, this new Gucci movie. You know, Jared Leto, like, why not just hire a heavyset, balding actor rather than, you know, all of that work that it took to turn Jared Leto into that?
Right.
You know, kind of. I mean, and this has been a conversation. I mean, even if you think about, like, what was that terrible movie with Gwyneth Paltrow?
Oh my God, no.
No. I'm allowed to say that because she said the same thing. Gwyneth did. It's not one of her favorites. Shallow Hal. Remember where she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that movie.
Yeah, where
I actually like that movie.
It was, but at the same time,
Yeah.
you know, why not hire an actress who is a heavier blonde actress?
Right.
And give them the opportunity to shine versus...
Yeah, but can we also just talk about the premise of that movie?
I know the premise of the... I know, because it's kind of like, would you really go through all of that for a shit comedy? But, you know, but it's still a conversation, because I feel like, and again, part of that film was, you know, that it's not just that you took this kind of like young, beautiful actress and put her in a fat suit. But then that when she was in the fat suit, she's just the butt of the joke.
Right. And I think that is the problem. I mean, I don't, I think that's a super hard conversation to have too, because people want to make it about health too. And I think some people don't realize that just because you're a little heavier set doesn't mean that you necessarily have high cholesterol or that you have a heart condition or that you have any of these things. And sometimes it's just, you never really know what makes somebody this way or that way. And sometimes it's the opposite. Some people are incredibly skinny naturally and they're not anorexic. They don't have an eating disorder, and it's incredibly rude to say so.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, I mean, how many people do I know that look like they're, athletic and fit as shit, and they're all like, closet smokers, they've got high cholesterol, they're on blood pressure medicine, and they, you would never know that by looking at them, but.
I know. Well, living in LA especially is such a funny duality to this, like, health thing, because I mean, people will go into their hot yoga classes and eat like their, quinoa bowls and then do tons of drugs. And I'm just like, yeah, I guess you're just like totally polluted is really what you are. But yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, but I guess that's the flip side of beauty too, is that it's, we've created these standards. We've, as makeup artists, we're paid to do what we do, right? Which is to present an image, whether it's to sell a product or to create a character or what have you. And then somehow that image ends up plastered on billboards and magazine covers and on the sides of buses and splashed all over social media. And then you have all of these other people who see that as being beautiful and wanting to kind of emulate that. And sometimes what we do is create an image that's completely unattainable for someone at home.
Right. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who is an influencer and taught me actually how to do, photo editing and things like that. And we had this kind of in-depth conversation about, is it right to edit a photo? Like in general, like ethically, like, is it okay to try to sell a product and then manipulate the image that you're selling the product with? And I think what we landed on was, yes, it is. Because when you're trying to show someone a color, right, you don't necessarily need to be focusing on your pimple you had that day. And you want the focus to stay on the art and the product, and you don't necessarily want it to be about a particular skin condition, perhaps. But I think there's an element of realism that should be maintained. I mean, people have pores. I think pores are like a totally fine, normal thing that you should include in a photograph. Hair, like people have hair, peach fuzz, like it happens,
Right.
If you have one like super distracting thing, then yeah, okay, maybe you edit that. But like, but I don't know who sets the standard for that, who says that you have to, and who polices people's art. Because it's really art.
Magazine editors who look like Quasimodo.
Well, that's just I mean, I feel like that's just so layered, because then it's like, well, why does Quasimodo not think Quasimodo
is beautiful?
Beauty? Yeah, is beauty.
It's funny is that, I'm not saying that all magazine editors look like Quasimodo. But it's this idea that there are these people who make a decision about what, like who decides what trend is trendy, who decides what colors become, kind of the big thing for the next season. I know that there are companies that go out and kind of like poll all the major designers to see what they're working with, and then create these kind of lookbooks that then like retailers and other designers can utilize to figure out how to keep their upcoming designs kind of in the same market.
Trend.
So kind of. So that kind of trending. I mean, I understand it. I understand that it's part of the business, but really, like, it becomes this thing where, you're right. Who does decide? Like, why is it someone sitting in a penthouse office in New York that decides that this is the thing that needs to happen right now and change the face of beauty?
There's also this other sort of tangent off that is, is your perspective and reality? Because right now I'm realizing that my algorithm on my social media feeds me a completely different set of aesthetics than my best friend, right? And so what I think is cool and what I think is up and coming and trendy, she goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I think just a very specific example is I told her I wanted to get this kind of like 80s postmodern coffee table. And she was like, Cici, that is not cool. I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, you should be getting this kind of coffee table. This is what's in right now. And we literally compared notes and like our, you know, our Pinterest boards and our Instagrams and all this other stuff. And I was like, wow, we could not be more dissimilar. Like, and we live in the same city and we're in the same age category, you know? So I was like, we're in the same demographic, but not. And it kind of warps your reality, because you're going, oh, the things that are, I think are current, maybe are only current to me.
Right.
And so that's a whole different mind. Sorry, can I say?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. There's this. I think there's this. You know, there's the conversation about how Instagram is damaging to young women and to young people in general.
I think now it's a fact, right? They just
it is. There's now scientific evidence that that this is true, but I think that that's part of it, is that what people are, you know, because the algorithm picks up on what keywords and past usage and search results and all this other stuff. So it's just kind of like, because everything becomes so tailored to each person, that I mean, you're right, it really can kind of warp your sense of what's real and what's not.
Yeah. and how much is I don't know, it just feels so tailored that to you and to, you know, what you might consider cool based on your past likes. It's hard to gauge. I think it's just hard to gauge where the trends are going, because I think it might just be very specific niches that are being marketed to now versus trends that hit the world, you know,
right?
Like it used to be. Like, you know, you look at a movie from the 60s, everyone's dressed in 60s fashion. Yeah. Now you look at a movie that's current, well, you got the person that kind of dresses like a hipster, and the person that dresses kind of like, you know, like maybe they do kind of have an affinity with the 80s fashion, you know, and the person who is the trendsetter who's looking like an Instagram model. Like, and I think that there's this kind of hodgepodge right now of looks and styles, and I don't think there's one cohesive thing. That I think what defines our generation kind of is that there isn't a look.
Yeah. Do you think that leads to people feeling left out or lonely if they feel like they're different, or are people being made to feel different if that's the case?
I don't know. I can tell you from my personal experience, I feel super confused all the time because my personal aesthetic, I've realized, is I am in no way a minimalist, and I see this push to like be more minimalistic in your lifestyle and your approach to everything, in the way that maybe you do makeup, you know, clean beauty, for instance. It's like, you know, less stuff on the face, more bringing out your natural, this whole like very clean aesthetic. And my whole thing is, I'm a collector. I like stuff. I want all the stuff, and I want all the makeup, and I love to be able to transform my face. I appreciate clean beauty too, and I think I do a combo of both, you know, but yeah, it gets confusing, and it gets confusing to know where it's going next, I think, right now.
Yeah. I guess the question comes from the idea that, you know, when you think about, you know, kids in school, right? Mm-hmm. Like kids in school and Hollywood are so closely related, right? Everybody's got their boxes to tick, and everybody likes to be in their little niche.
Yeah.
And then, you know, if what you're seeing or what you're finding or what your interests are leading you down one path, and the majority of the class is going down another path, that could lead to kind of like feelings of isolation, I think.
Totally, yeah.
But at the same time, that kind of breaking of barriers and having people with so many varied interests is also kind of freeing and revolutionary as an adult, where you feel like you don't necessarily have to fit in to a box at that particular moment.
Yeah. I honestly I think there is a shocking difference between the way that I grew up and the way that kids are growing up now, to the point where I don't know if I can fully relate, because I can't imagine what it's like to say something on the internet at 16 years old and it be passed around to everyone I know. You know, like, I don't know what that's like. I can imagine it's equivalent to having your diary read in class, which actually happened to me, by the way.
Oh, God.
So that was fun.
Jeez.
Yeah, but, you know, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what kids go through now. If it's isolating or if they feel included. I think that I can see that this generation is incredibly compassionate and probably one of the most, like, aware generations that I think we've seen ever. You know, they grew up so fast and they're so astute to, like, how the world works and kind of what's bullshit. I think they're super quick to call you on it. I think it's great. You know?
Okay, so talking about this generation, when was the first time you put makeup on?
Me? Myself?
Yeah, like when did you start wearing makeup?
Oh, I was like 4. I'm dead serious. I have pictures of my mom was a model, and it's funny, these unattainable standards of beauty. I look a lot like my mom, actually, but I could never be as thin as her. And that was always my thing, is like, well, mom was so thin, and like, I can never be as thin as mom. It doesn't matter how much I diet. It's just I'm not built that way. I'm built more like my dad. So, like, fuck me, you know. And I just remember watching her do makeup, and she would give me some, and, you know, she'd be like, okay, now, like, do your lips, and this is how you do your lips. And it's a beautiful memory. And yeah, I don't think I ever grew out of it. I think she actually told me recently, she's like, do you remember when you were like 5 and you asked me when I pass if you could have my makeup? And I was like, no, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. I was like, but sounds like a very me thing to ask. I was like, your biggest treasure is this, like, box full of pain powder.
Well, okay, so started doing makeup, like doing your own makeup before. Mm-hmm. When was the earliest that you kind of remember, like, actually being allowed to, like, leave the house with makeup done?
Same time, actually.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, so I was in dance and gymnastics and all these performance type things, and so I would be allowed to wear it to those things.
Right.
So I got to show off in front of my friends and show off my makeup skills, and it was super fun. And I think that was my first taste of it too, because seeing all the moms painting up their little girls, you know, to go do a performance, and it was always kind of a competition who could do the better hair and who did the better makeup, you know.
Of course.
Like, yeah,
always.
So that was always very cute. But being able to actually express myself, I actually think I started more with hair color. I started dyeing my hair when I was like 13 or 14 years old, and it was always like shocking blue or, like, you know, out there pink, and my dad hated it. For sure. For sure. He was like, why are you so weird? But now it's like a standard. Like, everyone does it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I remember, I mean, I grew up in a very kind of conservative rural area. So I remember, like, you know, maybe starting to think about hair color and other people, you know, seeing other people kind of playing with hair color, like, in, like, I don't know, before high school. Yeah. But, like, I don't remember anyone kind of being, like, full face makeup until, like, 8th grade. And like now my niece, who is living in the same area, is like 10, and like, you can't be a girl and go to school without some kind of makeup on your face at 10.
Yeah, well, that's funny. So now that I think about it, there are 2 makeup trends that stand out to me from my childhood. One is around the time I was 10, the grunge look was really in, and no girl left the house without her mocha lip liner and clear lip gloss in the middle. That was a look.
That was a look.
And that everybody did that. And then in high school, I remember, like, the emo look was really in. It was like this kind of goth, like, it was kind of like circumventing goth in a way. This emotional rock, right? And all the girls had either short spiky hair, horn rimmed glasses like the Weezer guys, you know, and they would pale out their lips and make their eyes really smoky, and it was such a look. And it was the only other time I can remember being aware of a trend in my youth, like in my youth. I'm 36, so I'm not that old.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's funny though, because like you said that we're like, oh,
we're ancient.
My youth. I did have a youth.
Yeah.
And it keeps slipping further and further away.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Well, it's funny because in the makeup world now, I do feel like a dinosaur, because I'm like, oh, you know, I've been doing this longer than I haven't been doing it.
I know, right? When people ask you how long you've been doing it, and you're kind of like,
I know. I'm coming up on 17 years as a hairdresser. That's
God.
crazy.
It's like, I don't know. It's to the point now where like I don't really remember a time that I didn't have a makeup brush in my hand somewhere.
Well, it's just you through and through. Just part of your life.
Just what it is.
Yeah. Well, going back to what you were saying about trends, I did a video during this last year about the grunge movement and about kind of the affiliation between drug culture and like this like heroin chic look.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, there was something about making that video that kind of it reminded me of me, because I remember flipping through those magazines and seeing the CK1 ads and seeing, you know, the girls in the low rise jeans and Christina Aguilera, who weighed 2 pounds back then, you know, and I was just, and again, that unattainable beauty standard that we're talking about. And it feels good to now see how far we've come in that conversation, because I was like, oh yeah, you know, now we're talking about inclusivity and about, you know, like body positivity, which I think is great. Like I was like, well, I wish I had that.
Yeah. I think that more and more conversations are coming around to this idea of, again, questioning a standard, and really kind of breaking that open for individuality and expression, and to be more inclusive, and hopefully for more people to feel like they are beautiful and that they do deserve to have their face on a magazine or to be represented in magazines or online or in films. I still think we have a ways to go, but I think that we're kind of on the right track.
Yeah, well, one of the really interesting things about looking at makeup through kind of I can't think of the word for it right now, but you know, kind of as like a study of a people, is the more you allow people to express themselves visually, you know, in their dress and their like the way they adorn themselves, makeup, the more free and righteous like a society is. Like the more they're heading in the right direction and are letting people have freedoms. And the more you repress that, the more stifled and controlled a society tends to be. And that is like true over and over again throughout history. And so right now is, I think, just because the selling of makeup is as big as it is, we can really track it in a way that I don't think we could before, because people were making their own little pastes and stuff at home out of like beetles and you know, and like crushing up, you know, stones and stuff to make their powders. But yeah, I think we're seeing that, you know, men, women, everyone wears makeup. Doesn't matter. And any sex, I think it's becoming more accepted, which I think is a great thing. And I hope that people find more self-expression, hopefully as an outlet, and maybe there will be like less gun violence. Right. We're gonna solve the world's issue through makeup, really.
Put down your guns and pick up a fluff brush.
Yes. That's my hope for the world, honestly.
Yeah, right, exactly. I agree. I really do. You know, you were talking about the idea of not just appropriation, but when people are allowed to express themselves and how that leads to kind of a stronger sense of community and society. It reminds me of, you know, I knew about kind of like the boarding schools and stuff in like Australia, and how the Aboriginal people were taken and children were taken away and taken into these schools where they were kind of stripped of their identity. I had no idea that we did the same thing here, that there were state schools in the United States where they would take Native American children to like the Carlisle School in Pennsylvania, where their hair was cut.
Is that where you're from?
Yeah. Where they would cut off their hair and they wouldn't be allowed to use their native language, and they basically stripped them of their identity, and they had this horrible slogan that was like kill the Indian to save the man. And so it's just kind of, it's funny though that's
well, that tends to be again and again when you want to like break someone, basically. Yeah, you cut off their hair. It's a big part of your identity. And there's lots and lots of different countries, or sorry, not countries, cultures around the world identify hair as an extension of your self.
Mm-hmm.
And like literally it connects to your, if you believe you have five senses, some people believe you have six, it's your sixth sense of intuition, and that your hair literally records history. And that's actually true. You know, scientifically,
Yeah.
it does record, your health. You can track a lot of things through hair. So, yeah, I find that really interesting, that hair is such a big part of breaking the way somebody sees themselves and their self-esteem in order to be able to control them.
Yeah. It's as a makeup artist, I couldn't imagine someone or having that happen, where to the point where you would have to be like, you have to, your job now is to like remake this person, and you're not allowed to use this color, and you're not allowed to do this, and they can't have this, and you can't, and you take away.
I think that's what's been done to men, honestly. I think in some respect, if you look at the fancy dress from like the 1700s, 1800s, like whatever, you see powdered wigs and some degree of makeup, and the self-care that I think by the beginning of like, last century kind of doesn't exist anymore. And it was almost opposite for women, where they weren't wearing a lot of makeup. And then during like 1910, 1920, they started to kind of fight back against this Victorian mother look. And they were like, yeah, we don't want to be like our Victorian mothers. We're flappers now.
Right. Cutting their hair. And,
right.
Yeah,
but for the last like 100 years.
Yeah.
Men don't have a whole lot of self-expression, I don't think. And I think it's just now that they are starting to.
Yeah. No, I think that, again, it was this a way of kind of training or kind of programming a society.
Yeah, totally.
Which is really kind of sad, that kind of when we think of everything that I love about the beauty industry, about what it is that we do, and about how we can enhance beauty and make people feel about themselves and help actors create characters and tell stories and all this stuff, that those same things throughout history have also been used to kind of diminish and in some cases eradicate cultures.
100%. 100%. If you throw in nails in that too, like I'm noticing your nail polish.
Oh, my nail polish.
Yes.
Remnants of Halloween.
Oh, really? Well, men painting their nails goes back to the Babylonians.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that is something that has been around for literally almost as long as people. And, the ancient Egyptians too, they used to use henna on their nails. I think goddess Nefertiti, she used to paint them red, and she would use some sort of henna dye. And it was a way to distinguish like class systems too. And, I sort of wonder, at what point did it become, sort of like when we started othering certain people for doing something that was totally a tradition and a norm.
Right. When did that become?
Yeah, I haven't been able to place it yet. Like, what happened that made it be this way? Yeah, I don't know. That's actually a good question. Maybe that'll be on my next video.
I was going to say that's the next historian. We've just been chatting and time is running out. But I wanted to say, number one, thank you so much for coming and visiting me today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for
having me. It's so good to have you in studio.
Yeah, this is amazing. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. But before we go, top 3 must-have products. What are the 3 things that you just kind of, can be skincare, hair care, whatever, just the beauty products that are your musts?
So for hair, it's got to be the Davines. There's this hair oil that I just like swear by. Also the Dr. Dennis Gross AHA peel pads, like daily peel pads. Those are amazing. I love the way that they treat my 11s. And I recently got a thread treatment in my face, and I've been kind of treating my wrinkles around my nasolabial folds, and that's really helped with that too. And I would say my third is also skincare. It's the Weleda skin food. So good. It's just, yeah.
See, and that's the other thing I think that people don't, we spend so much time thinking about beauty as being cosmetics and makeup, but we never really think about the canvas.
Oh my gosh,
Right.
you gotta prime your canvas.
People forget about just proper skincare in general.
It's number one.
You know, it's kind
Yeah.
of like, why does my makeup look like her? Because if you took care of your skin the way that she took care of her skin.
I know.
Right,
It's a game changer.
It really is.
And don't we live in a wonderful time where we have access to just about solutions to anything?
To just about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my gosh, this was so fun.
Thank you. I love you. Okay, we'll talk soon.
Talk soon.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Face Value. I'm your host, Robert Hensley, signing off. Until next time.